بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Criminal Law of Islam class. We're still discussing the classification of crime. And we have the category of simple and habitual crime. This is another classification of crime based on its nature. The nature of the commitment of this crime. We have two types. We have a simple crime and we have the habitual crime. What do we mean by this? The simple crime is a single act that is unlawful. That is simple crime. Habitual crime is a repeated act that one act itself is not punishable, but repeating that act would be punishable. So that's what we mean by simple and habitual crime. Simple crime does not mean that it is not severe, but rather simple crime means one act. And the habitual crime is the repeated act that will make the act crime. While if the act itself alone was made, it is not a crime. Can you think of an example for a simple crime? Simple crime. Murder. Is murder simple? Yes, it is, because it's one act. Habitual crime. Do we have an act that you can do it once, but if you repeat it several times, then it becomes haram or becomes a crime? Can you think of an act like that?
Playing loud anashid.
What?
Playing loud anashid in your house.
Playing loud anashid in the house? What is the crime here? The playing of anashid or the loud anashid?
Loud.
Loud?
Bothers neighbors repeatedly. Just hypothetical.
Possible. See, it is difficult to find an example, and that's why it is not from the hudud, it is not from the qisas, it is from what? Ta'zir. It is from the ta'zir. But do we have an example of that? Definitely, yes we do. An example for this would be gazing. If you look at a woman at first glance, is that blameworthy? Is that punishable? No. But if the judge receives reports that you repeat this time after time after time, shouldn't he punish you? You're gazing at women. It is a sin, but you're doing it repeatedly. Speeding in the Islamic law. What's the ruling on speeding? Speeding, you're driving 100 miles per hour or 70 miles per hour. Is there an ayah or hadith says that you cannot drive 70 miles per hour?
Yeah.
Yes?
The least of faith is the one who removes the stone from the road.
The least?
The lowest of faith is that you take a stone from the road. Speeding.
What does this have to do with the speeding?
It's like you make the road safe for someone. So making the road, when you speed, you make the road dangerous.
What if there's no one on the road?
When you speed, you make the road dangerous? How you make the road dangerous? So what makes the road not dangerous? Speeding, what speed limit?
Driving safe.
That's for scientists to sit down and figure out.
For scientists, is that based on the type of the car or the type of the road? Because someone is driving SUV, high car, is not like someone who's driving very heavy, low car.
Well, that's why different roads have different speed limits.
Yeah. So if the judge decides discretionary that the speed limit should be 70 and someone was driving 75, would he be punished Islamically?
Yes.
Why?
This isn't discretionary. This is choice.
He's like the one who put the stones in the road.
But if this act was repeated several times, that this person is speeding, this person is going over limit, this person is endangering others' lives, then yes, in this case it becomes a crime. So we do have examples of habitual crime that it is by itself is not a crime. If you forgot, would that be a crime?
No.
What if you repeatedly forget? Someone gave you something and you are a trustee. The trustee is not liable because you, but if you repeat that time after time after time, then what? Then you become liable. This is the kind of the habitual crime. Now, what about punishment for, or let's see, why do we classify crimes to habitual and simple? How would that help us? What's the significance of that division? What about the punishment?
Simple is upon.
The simple crime, the punishment is for the act, right after the act. But for the habitual,
It's for the habitual.
okay, someone committed several simple crimes. Where is he punished? Someone killed a man in Texas. Then he went to Minnesota and he killed there also. Where is he punished?
Where is God?
Wherever he's found.
He was found there, but he killed here. In the current law, where is he punished?
Any state where you kill, so Texas or Minnesota.
But isn't there a preference that he was caught there, so he will be punished there?
Probably they have it. Maybe after they're done with it, they'll send him to Texas and they'll convict him over there too.
Yeah, like here, there is a death sentence, but if in Minnesota there is no death sentence, wouldn't he be brought here?
They might sentence him to life in prison in Minnesota, and then Texas will transport him here, and then try him and execute him.
Okay, but in the habitual crime, what happens in the habitual crime? Remember, the first act is what? It is not a crime. So you repeated that act. The reports came that you did this act here in Texas, and you did this act in Minnesota, and then you did this act in California, where you will be tried. And the last one, in California. That's the difference between habitual act and simple act. Now, we have interesting division about the disliked acts and the recommended acts. If you don't do the recommended act, are you blameworthy? That's why it is recommended, right? What if you don't do something recommended and the judge decides to punish you? Does he have the right to do so? No. What about disliked act?
Yes.
If Allah is going to punish you, why is the man going to punish
If Allah is not going to punish you, why would he punish you?
Because he has authority.
Because you're hurting society.
Allah does not have the authority and you have the authority?
But he
Allah does
is
have
he's a
the authority.
qazi, then yes, he can decide in the best of for the people or.
Then it should be prohibited act if there is a punishment. Right? We're saying this is just disliked. What does it mean, disliked? It's okay, but you should not do it. When I tell you, I don't like you to eat in the class, does that mean you cannot eat? I just don't like it. If you ate, I will not tell you, go outside, because I told you I don't like it. I did not tell you no one is allowed to eat in the class. So, do you deserve punishment on disliked act? Scholars in agreement that punishment is on leaving what is obligatory or doing what is prohibited. They are in agreement on that. They are also in agreement that leaving or abandoning one recommended act or doing one disliked act is what? Is not punishable. They are also in agreement on that. Because every single one of us, definitely he did something which is disliked or left something which is recommended. All scholars are in agreement that leaving what is recommended once or doing what is disliked once, that is not punishable. But they are in disagreement about the repeated abandoning of a recommended act or the repeated committing of a disliked act. Is there a punishment on this or no? That's where scholars differed. And what do you think is the correct opinion?
No punishment.
No punishment.
No, because Allah wouldn't-
Why there is a punishment?
I'll say no. Doesn't make any sense.
Is that act harming anyone in any way?
No, if it's explicitly mentioned, it's makruh.
Is that act harming anyone? How? What do you consider harming? What if it is not harming but it is not convenient to others?
If there is an incident in the time of Umar
Mhm.
where there was a guy with it's a nice looking guy, but Umar finds some women talking about him and he ordered to shave his head and ask him to leave Medina
Yeah,
and never come back.
yeah.
So
That's not.
so based on that, even if he didn't do something wrong, but he was causing something that would create some fitna sometime in the future.
Okay.
So
But the thing is here, he did not do any act repeatedly. That is the discretion of the Khalifa. That's not what we're discussing here. We're discussing what you yourself do, not what others are doing.
Yeah, like if I went to the masjid, but it's smelling breath every single time, am I going to punish good?
Yes, you should be punished.
No, see, I don't-
Because we're being punished for it.
Man, that's different.
Okay. Someone burps all the time.
Yeah, you know, punish him.
You're not going to punish him. Shouldn't the judge punish him?
He's not able to help that. It's not in his control.
It is not in his control. What if he was punished and it appears that it is under his control?
Then he should be punished.
No, no, no.
Scholars differed, and some of them said yes, there is punishment. Remember, what punishment we're talking about here is ta'zir, discretionary. And they say yes, the judge has the authority to impose some kind of punishment on the continuous act that is disliked. You do this act and it is disliked. You repeat it, you repeat it again, so there should be punishment. That is based on, or it is up to the judge to decide. Now, there is a significance in this division in regards to limitation, in regards to the court jurisdiction, and in regards to the rules of interpenetration, tadakhul, what we call in Islam or in Arabic tadakhul. And these are explained in the book.
What is the last one?
Interpenetration, tadakhul. When you are punished twice for one act. Now, we're discussing another act which is a little bit different. It has some similarities, but it is different. We will discuss the crime that is resulting from repetition of an act. What do we mean by this? Repeating the same act or different aspects of the act. Like what? Let me give you an example. You were disputing with one of the Muslims and he raised his voice. Then he abused you, that you lost it. He said very harsh words. So what did you do? You kicked him. And you punched him. And you slapped him. When you're taken to the judge, he will try you for 3 acts or for 1 act.
It's 1 act, it's beating.
1 act, which is what?
Beating.
Beating. Or 3 acts. What are the 3 acts? Aren't they all in 1 act? Okay. Another example. Someone decided to steal a house. What do we call that act?
Theft.
It is theft, right? Okay. If you go and you find that there is nobody in the house, so you go first trip and you take the furniture. Then you come again and you take the gold. And you come again and you take electronics and appliances. How many acts you did?
Is it the same time or
It's the same house. It took you 2 hours going back and forth.
Oh, no, that's
it's 1?
Why it is 1? Why you...
It's the same time. It's the same time. But if you come other day and then you come the other day, it's 3 different times.
No, it's 1 act. But
Why would he go 3 times?
No, because he has to travel back home.
Yeah, it is not enough. He cannot take everything at once.
Oh, he went home and came back.
Yeah.
That's 3.
Why that's 3?
He went back home.
3 different times you're stealing.
But they are away, and he knew that they won't come until tomorrow, so he has the entire day to steal the house. But he cannot get everything at once.
you take
That's 1.
that's 3 because you take at different time, different items.
That's interesting.
It's like you put something in your car. You take something, go to the car, come back, take something, put it to the car. I mean, you are just making the trip.
Okay, that is considered 1 act. That is considered 1 act. Now, with of course some variations, depending on the time, the kind of repetition itself. But in general, this is 1 act. And this is very similar to what we have in fiqh. When you want to perform the kaffara for something that you repeatedly did, taking an oath, breaking it, then taking another oath and breaking it, and then taking another oath and breaking it. Next, we have very important issue, which is the political crimes. Also, interestingly enough, we have this division in Islam. But mostly, what do we consider a political crime is rebellion. Going against the state or the head of the state, the Islamic Khalifa. So, we have a distinction between habitual crime and political crime. Killing the Muslim Khalifa, is it habitual or political crime? Yeah.
Political.
What is the purpose?
Well, yeah, it depends. Simple.
Killing the head of the Islamic State.
That's political.
Political. What do you mean by simple?
Yeah, you got simple and habitual.
Sheikh, it depends why one is killing.
It depends. Do we need to look why he killed him, or we say he's the head of the state
No, we don't.
during his actions and
He just impacted the entire ummah. It's serious stuff.
serious stuff? So isn't it political?
Yeah. Well,
It can't be
whatever the
habitual.
reason,
No, but
he just
crime is
impacted the
crime.
entire.
Okay.
Define it into a category, then we need to know why.
Killing Ali radiallahu anhu because he's the Khalifa.
Killing Ali was a political crime, but killing Umar was not a political crime.
Good.
No, it was. It was a political crime for the JUSY.
How about killing Ali radiallahu anhu? That killing itself was not a political crime by Ali radiallahu anhu. Ali radiallahu anhu, when he was killed, he told his son Al-Hasan, if I survive, I am responsible for retaliation. If I am killed, then kill the man himself only. That's what he said. Means do not avenge. It is not a political crime. So in general, if you wanted to determine the nature of a crime, whether it is political or habitual, you need to look at the circumstances, the purpose. Usually political crime does not happen in normal circumstances. You have to take in consideration the communal interest. Do you kill him? Now actually the nearest I could think of in our time is the terrorist act. Now according to them, what do they define a terrorist act? Killing an American, is that a terrorist act?
Yes.
If it was done by Muslim,
Yeah.
they will look for the purpose. You may kill 20 people, all of them Americans, by giving them overdose drugs. And that might not be considered political crime or a terrorist attack. Why? Because you are a businessman, you took money and you cheated on them and they were killed. But if a Muslim bombed a bus empty, he might be prosecuted as terrorist attack. So you need to look to the communal interest. Was this attack against the community, even if it was against one person? Did it endanger the security of the society? Did it threaten the peace? Did it attack the safeguard and the survival of the community's infrastructure? You need to have all these things into consideration when you determine an act, whether it is a political crime or not. Yes?
I'm confused on why is there a comparison with habitual and political?
Habitual now means a habit, that he is a criminal and he killed him as a habit. This is something not related.
Oh, this is not.
This is different categorization.
Oh, it's not the habitual.
Yeah. Now, in order for any crime to be considered as a political crime or rebellion, there are certain conditions need to be applied. First, as I said, we need to look at the circumstances and the motive. Now we need to look at these conditions. First, the purpose of the crime. You need to look at the purpose of his crime. What was the purpose? Second, you need to look at the rationalization. Now, the purpose of the crime, was it to oust or to impeach the Khalifa, to dissolve the Muslim government? That is a political crime. Rationalization, when the people who are committing this act of rebellion, again remember we're talking about political crime, so those people who are rebellious, they have a rationalization, just like Al-Khawarij. Was the crime of Al-Khawarij habitual or it was political? Why it was political? They accused Ali radiallahu anhu of disbelief. They told him, you have to renew your Islam, you apostated. And you ask them why? They give you an answer. They give you evidence from the Quran. They say, لا إن الحكم إلا لله. They quote ayah from the Quran. And Ali radiallahu anhu would tell them, the ayah is true, but what is meant by it from you is falsehood. What you mean by it is falsehood. The ayah itself is true. So they have an evidence. You cannot say they don't have an evidence. But the point from that evidence for them is totally wrong. Otherwise, if they don't have rationalization, what is their act be considered? Group that rebelled against the Muslim state without any kind of justification. That is considered apostasy, or part of the apostasy, just like the people in the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. What differentiates between what the people in the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu did and the people in the time of Ali radiallahu anhu did? People in the time of Ali radiallahu anhu, they thought that they are closer to the truth. What they are doing is implementing Islam. While others, that's not what they did. They actually opposed Islam. The third condition, in order to determine that this is a political crime, the source of power. What does that mean? This means they have to have power, strength. They supply themselves with weapons. Then it is considered political crime. And with all these conditions, as long as they don't start revolution, don't start acts, it is not a political crime. So once these 4 conditions are applied, then it is what? It is a political crime. And in the Islamic history we have many examples, especially Al-Khawarij. Now, with all of that, Islam is the religion of mercy. And because of that, it kept the rights for the rebels. Even though they are committing political crime, they still have rights. What are the rights of the rebels? What are their rights?
You don't take their wealth.
You don't take their wealth.
Yeah, but is that true?
Okay. They are not to be deprived from worship. You cannot tell them, you rebelled, so you don't come and pray with us. This is one thing. Second, they are not to be prevented from speaking their minds. Again, as long as it is not against Islam, they can say whatever they want. Actually, Khawarij, they used to pass by Ali radiallahu anh and tell him, "Inil hukmu illa lillah," meaning that you did not judge according to the religion of Allah, meaning that you should renew your Islam. They used to repeat this several times in front of Ali radiallahu anh. He did not stop them. He told them, "You are Khawarij, so you cannot worship, you cannot speak your mind." Islam again honors the freedom of speech. Also, they are allowed to have their gatherings. They want to meet. They have the right. But the Imam is to have someone observing them. You don't wait until they start the war and you're the last one to know. But that does not mean, again, to separate them always whenever they have a meeting. They are allowed to do so. Another right is that they are not to be fought unless they start the war. Ali radiallahu anh was very patient with Al-Khawarij, and every time they do something he says, we will be patient with them, they are still our brothers, as long as they did not raise their swords against us. Once they started killing, then that's it. Now they have to be punished. So if they started the revolution, and if they started killing, or they took over some properties, what are their rights? Now they are with you in war. They are with you in war. What are their rights? You fought them. They found out that you have lots of weapons they were not aware of, and they will lose, so they ran away. Would you follow them and kill them? No. As Muslims, you should not follow them. While if they were kuffar, yes, you follow them and kill them. Because if you did not do that, they will come again and kill you. But not with Muslims. They run away, you leave them. Khawarij or any rebels, they are still Muslims, so you don't have right over their properties. And this is something that is not implemented in the current law. Many laws, actually, even in France, they say the freedom. The rebels, their properties are confiscated, but not in Islam. Their families, are they punished? Their women, their children. Only the person who is doing this act. What about the family? What if she was helping him? She will definitely help him. He is her husband. Still, she is not punished. What about the destruction that they caused? Now remember, rebels, they need finances, they need money. They went and they stole bank with the notion that the state is stealing from them and that's their money. So they took the money from the bank. They took $1 million and they bought weapons and they destroyed a ranch of one of the neighbors. Who's responsible for that destruction? They are, but they did it with justification. That's what they think. They are liable for any damages that they caused. What is the punishment of the rebels? Now the Imam took control and he overcame the rebels and he captured them. 200 people. They endangered the peace of the society. They threatened the peace and the fabric, the infrastructure. What do you do with them?
If they killed, you kill them.
You execute them. Well, if they did not kill, all what they did was they took $1 million, they destroyed that property, they announced everywhere that this government is not a true government representing Muslims. We have to overthrow the Khalifa,
Like the Khawarij,
kill them all.
the Prophet said, if I see him anywhere, I'll strike.
Did that what Ali radiallahu anh did? Is that what Ali radiallahu anh did? Whenever he saw them, he killed them? No.
I mean, that always did what the Prophet said.
It wasn't Ali.
Okay, what if you heard about this group and they decided to go for revolution, and they went, they isolated themselves, they built that fortress, they have this palace with all mines around it, so any soldier would attempt to come, he will be killed. So you were told that this group is threatening to control, and 2 months surrounding them, you could not catch them. Then after that, they gave up the revolution. You sent to them a scholar who convinced them that what they are doing is wrong, and they repented. They said, fine, we will abandon these violent acts.
That's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay. What do you do?
No, they leave it as it is.
Leave it as it is. So
When you're in war, you attack them.
they
were going to kill you.
they loaded the palace, they put mines, they threatened the people, they carried weapons against the government.
Yeah, it's like non-Muslims, so they became Muslims. Right?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ تَابُوا مِن قَبْلِ أَن تَقْدِرُوا عَلَيْهِمْ, except for those who repented before you are able to catch them. Then know that Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful. فَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. But what if they did not repent until you had an actual war and many victims?
And you apply the ayah right before that, right?
Right, the ayah itself. Ayah 33 of Surah Al-Ma'idah. إنما جزاء الذين يحاربون الله ورسوله ويسعون في الأرض فسادا أن يقتلوا أو يصلبوا أو تقطع أيديهم وأرجلهم من خلاف أو ينفوا من الأرض ذلك لهم خزي في الدنيا ولهم في الآخرة عذاب عظيم. The ayah listed 4 punishments: killing them, crucifying them, cutting off hands, right hands and leg, feet, or right foot and left hand, or deporting them from the land. That's what the ayah mentioned. So what kind of punishment are they punished? Is it up to the judge to determine, or it is in order, depending on the volume and the magnitude of the crime that they committed?
Both.
How both?
Judge is going to decide, but he will decide based on their crimes and their acts.
If they killed 2 people and they stole $1 million. Now the problem here, as I said, this is a political crime. It is not a crime of a thief where he goes in the night and he sneaks. No, this is done on purpose. In the daylight, they come with weapons and they take everything and they leave. So what is their punishment?
Judge looks best.
So they killed 2 people and they stole $1 million, and the judge said, I will just deport you.
That's what he thought was best. He's smart.
that's
He's
not
smart.
fair.
He should know what to do.
He deported them. What about the 2 killed people? Isn't a soul for a soul?
Yeah.
So again, can the judge say, no, in this case this is different and I think it is better for the Muslim Ummah that I just deport them?
No, because
Yes, it is possible.
No.
But they killed.
Even if they kill. But if this is better for the ummah, then yes.
this is political. Like the ayah is mentioning political.
Yeah, political should be actually aggravated. So the crime should be emphasized. The punishment should be increased.
Yeah, we have a choice. More choices.
No.
Allah give you
But the question again, are these choices
specific.
and the judge has full authority to determine, or there are specifics?
There are specifics.
Like you would take the other specific eyes over.
What is the order then?
For one who killed,
You kill.
you have to kill him.
Then when do you crucify?
Then everything else. Everything else would kill.
That's up to the judge.
Yeah, those are
Okay, you need to read the interpretation of this ayah and to see the details. We will stop here inshallah. هذا وصلى الله وسلم على محمد وصحبه أجمعين.